What if the most passionate love stories of the American frontier were not the ones you read in history books? Forget cowboys and saloon girls. We're diving into the untold tales of forbidden alliances and surprising partnerships that defied every expectation in the untamed West. Prepare to have your perceptions of frontier romance completely upended. When we picture the Old West, we often see a very specific, almost cinematic version of love. The stoic cowboy, the virtuous schoolmarm, the saloon girl with a heart of gold. These are the archetypes we've been fed for generations, painting a narrow black and white picture of relationships. But the reality was so much more complex, more colorful, and frankly, more interesting. Today, we're breaking that mold. We're going beyond the veil of traditional narratives to explore the diverse tapestry of people who truly shaped the frontier and the unconventional ways they found connection. Imagine the sheer isolation of frontier life. Miles of untamed wilderness separating you from the next settlement, a constant battle against the elements, and the ever-present threat of danger. In this environment, survival often trumped convention. The desperation for companionship, for a helping hand, led to pairings that would have been unthinkable back east. These weren't just romantic flings, they were survival partnerships, forged in the crucible of necessity. We see this most vividly in the surprising bonds that formed between people of different cultures and social classes. Cross-cultural marriages and partnerships, while often frowned upon, were a fact of life. Think of the fur trappers who formed families with Native American women. These unions weren't just about love, they were strategic alliances. Native wives provided crucial knowledge of the land, language skills, and kinship networks that were essential for a trapper's survival and success. In return, the trapper offered access to trade goods and a different kind of security. These relationships were complex, blending practicality, mutual respect, and yes, often genuine affection. They created families and communities that literally bridged two worlds, defying the rigid racial lines society tried to draw. Similarly, economic and social pressures often made love a very practical choice. On a homestead where every hand was needed to work the land, a partner was a necessity, not a luxury. A marriage could be a business arrangement, a merger of two struggling farms, or a way for a single woman to gain security and a home. Does that mean love wasn't present? Not at all. But it meant that love often grew from a foundation of shared struggle and mutual dependency, rather than a fleeting romantic spark. These couples faced blizzards, droughts, and disease side by side. Their bond wasn't forged in candlelit dinners, but in the shared sweat and tears of building a life from nothing. That's a powerful kind of love, one that's rarely shown in the movies. But what about the loves that had to remain hidden? The loves that dared not speak their name? The frontier, for all its supposed freedom, was also governed by strict, often unforgiving moral codes brought over from the East. For individuals who didn't fit into the heterosexual, patriarchal norm, life was fraught with danger. Yet, even in this repressive environment, love found a way. We're talking about forbidden bonds and secret loves. Same-sex relationships, for example, certainly existed on the frontier, but they are almost entirely erased from the official record. The very nature of the West, however, sometimes created unique spaces for these relationships to blossom in secret. Think of two cowboys spending months alone on a cattle drive, their only companionship being each other. Or two Boston wives, educated independent women from the East who moved west together, setting up a household and a life that was, for all intents and purposes, a marriage. These partnerships were often hidden in plain sight, disguised as close friendships or practical living arrangements. The risk of exposure was immense. Discovery could lead to social ostracism, violence, or even legal trouble. But for many, The solace and companionship found in these secret bonds were worth the risk. They found love in the shadows, a quiet rebellion against a world that refused to see them. Maintaining any relationship was a challenge when community oversight was constant. In small isolated towns, everyone knew everyone else's business. A glance held too long, a visit that lasted a little too late. Everything was fodder for gossip and judgment. This made secret affairs, whether between members of the same sex or in adulterous relationships, incredibly difficult and dangerous. Yet, they happened. These stories reveal the universal human need for connection, a need so powerful it could push people to defy the most rigid social structures, risking everything for a moment of genuine emotional intimacy. Perhaps the most profound stories are those of love amidst sheer adversity. The frontier was a land of immense hardship. Famine, disease, and violent conflict were not abstract threats. They were daily realities. In this context, relationships were tested in ways we can barely imagine today. But instead of breaking them, these struggles often deepened the bonds between people, redefining what love and romance even meant. Imagine nursing your entire family through a smallpox epidemic or holding your partner's hand as you watch your crops wither under a relentless sun. These shared traumas forged a resilience that is nothing short of heroic. The romantic ideals of polite society seemed laughably irrelevant when you were fighting for your next meal. Here, love was about action. It was about sacrifice. It was the husband who walked 50 miles in a blizzard to get medicine, or the wife who defended the homestead from attackers while her partner was away. These weren't grand poetic gestures. They were raw, desperate acts of devotion, driven by the harsh realities of their world. This shared struggle created a unique and powerful intimacy, a bond that went deeper than words, forged in the fires of survival. So what is the legacy of these unconventional love stories? They were often hidden, their details lost to time or deliberately erased from family histories. But their echoes remain. These relationships fundamentally shape the fabric of frontier society, creating diverse bloodlines and challenging the neat, tidy narratives we prefer. They show us that the American West was not a monolith, but a melting pot of cultures, desires, and complex human relationships. By unearthing these hidden histories, we challenge our own understanding of love. They remind us that there is no single right way to love or form a partnership. These stories from the past teach us profound lessons about human adaptability, resilience, and the enduring, irrepressible power of connection. They show us that even in the harshest of circumstances, in a world that tried to limit and define them, people found ways to love, to build families, and to create moments of warmth and tenderness. They prove that the human heart, in its quest for connection, is the most untamable frontier of all. Thank you for watching, and if you found these stories as fascinating as we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again as we continue to explore the hidden corners of history.